Thank you so much, Jade. It's a great intro. All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. Good morning. It's really an honor to open this conference for you. A note on how to pronounce my name. Jade did it perfectly. Mirit rhymes with deer meat or beer seat. So if you can't remember, imagine me eating venison on a bar stool, and it might come to you. Okay, so that was amazing just now with all the networking, but let's see who's here today. Rewind to before all of that, when you arrived this morning. Raise your hand if you came here knowing more than 10 people. Okay, not too many. How about between 5 and 10? Okay. What if anybody arrived here knowing only one person or maybe no one? Raise your hand. Okay, everyone look around. Okay. All those social butterflies from earlier, be nice to these people. I'm about to tell you why. I'm here to tell you that creativity at work, it doesn't just happen. And I mean creativity in the broadest sense, the ability to produce original and unusual ideas or to make something new or imaginative. You might call this innovation. So tell me, who thinks it's important to empower human creativity at work? Okay, easy crowd. Who knows how? I bet a bunch of you do. Well, the paradigm of the lone genius is well known. Famous author and scientist Isaac Asimov once said this: "My feeling is that as far as creativity is concerned, isolation is required. The presence of others can only inhibit this process, since creation is embarrassing. For every new good idea you have, there are 100, 10,000 foolish ones, which you naturally do not care to display." Okay, anybody here feel like you need isolation in order to be creative? It's okay. Yeah, natural. But I think poor Isaac Asimov sounds like he didn't have very much psychological safety with his peers. Am I right? Yeah. Okay, so let's come back to this. Many of you readily agreed that creativity is important, but why, really? Scott Belsky, Adobe's former chief strategy officer, wrote in 2019 that creativity is the new productivity. He pointed out that technology, machines, artificial intelligence, these are all engines of productive efficiency, and their ability to deliver on this promise has only skyrocketed. So what's left for us? Belsky says that as machines outclass us mere humans on productivity, the best thing we can do is to be creative. And while many today are exclaiming at the apparent ability of artificial intelligence to be creative, plenty of evidence says that mimicking human creativity is not the same as producing original, new ideas or works. Now, I consider myself a pretty creative person. I recently led a multi-day event strategy summit with my team, and at the end of it, I thought it would be really cool to have a poem that captured what we just talked about. So I asked our AI agent to write one, and it did in like 30 seconds, and it was uncomfortably good, you guys. But the AI didn't suggest the idea of writing that poem. I did, and the ideas in it were ours. In fact, according to the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, top business leaders rate creative thinking among the top 5 core skills employees will need today and in the future. One leader explains, "As a result of AI transformation, we have started planning for the skills of the future. This will involve the employee value proposition shifting to skills that are uniquely human and moving away from skills that machines can master." Exactly what Belsky predicted. Let's look at how creative thinking plays out in an actual workplace. Let's meet Sam. She's an individual contributor at Creativity Inc. She's smart and collaborative, a natural-born leader. Her work depends on collaborating with several other departments: product, sales, operations, and on the surface, everything has been working really efficiently. But beneath this veneer of productivity, she feels there is a problem. Despite working in the same building, her colleagues barely know each other. They don't even say hi in the hallway. As a result, the team's ability to be creative together feels mechanical. Sam rates it as like a 3 out of 10. Her colleagues all report to the same executive leader, and she feels like she's part of an extended family that never gathers together. Sam knows that they don't need more processes to harness their collective creativity. They need psychological safety, the kind that only comes from genuine human connection. Sam isn't alone. Across American workplaces, creativity is at risk. Mercer's latest report on global trends shows a mere 35% of employees report having psychological safety, and a huge percentage are at risk for burnout. I also felt compelled to share the risk for employees with disabilities, not only because it is so unacceptably high, but also because that includes neurodivergent employees, who arguably may be the most likely to bring creative thinking to their work. So what's the solution? How do we fix creativity? Let's look at what we know about how creativity works. In 1999, psychologist Csikszentmihalyi proposed a systems theory of creativity, showing it's made up of 3 components. 1, the individual person. 2, the domain of knowledge they work on. And 3, the field or social system, where a person may find and introduce novelty and where creative ideas are vetted as innovative enough to be permanently entered back into that domain, a social system. That brings us back to creative teams, like Sam's. Psychologists Leo and Gua have found that amongst creative teams, creativity starts with psychological safety, which leads to engagement with their work. It's through this new level of engagement that creativity is produced. It's basically validating that it's necessary for the social field to be safe enough to help the person feel really engaged with their domain of work. So the relationship between social connection and creativity isn't linear. In fact, it's quite complex. But it is absolutely critical to understand creativity doesn't just happen. It happens as a result of a complex set of social conditions of connection. So when you know how to design for connection, you know how to create the conditions in which creativity thrives. Again, think of Sam. Think of how disconnected her team felt and how her team's creativity suffered. Our need for connection is no surprise. We are wired for it. It's obvious why. In our evolutionary environment, having a support network meant the difference between life and death. Whether for protection from predators or preventing disease through grooming, we needed each other. Now the field of second-person neuroscience is showing us that our brains literally synchronize with our partner when we're engaging in cooperative behavior. I think that's cool. And today, it can make all the difference in our engagement on the job and our actual performance. But here's the thing. While we are wired for connection, as Jade shared, connection doesn't just happen. Pre-pandemic, we used to rely on serendipity to connect people at work. And when we were all in the same building together all the time, it wasn't a terrible strategy, but even then, it was still lacking. Remember how Sam's team worked in the same building for a year and a half without being friendly? And now, with the world of work permanently disrupted and distributed teams representing the new normal, we can't just be chill and expect connection to happen. I've been saying this word connection a lot, so let's pause and make sure we all agree on what that means. Well, for one, it's not togetherness, because putting people together only any old way, as we so often do at work and beyond, does not guarantee connection, not online and not in person. In fact, negative dynamics can weaken group cohesion. Anyone here been part of a group where the negativity just made it feel super disconnected, lonely? Yeah, I think we all have. The truth is subjective. Each individual's need for social connection falls on a continuum. Your need at any given time may be at a 10 or a 90, but make no mistake, Isaac Asimov, we all need it. It's never 0. So to keep us on the same page, I'll share my favorite definition of connection from Brené Brown, an expert on psychological safety, because it really captures the essence of the kind of connection I'm focusing on today. There we go. Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. Unfortunately, this is exactly the kind of connection that is in crisis, and not just for Sam, but for all of us. Now, I told you creativity was at risk. Unfortunately, I have more bad news. going to bring you down before we go up. Okay. Connection is in crisis. Here's a paradox, right? Despite access to unlimited connection online, we are experiencing an epidemic of loneliness. Former US Surgeon General Vivek Murthy discovered the devastating impact of loneliness in our nation and declared an epidemic in 2014, pre-pandemic, and a full advisory with resources in 2023. Just look at these stats. 1 in 2 US adults reports being lonely. Social isolation increases the risk of premature death by 3 times, the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Since people spend about 1/3 of their life at work, employers have an ethical obligation to combat this public health crisis, not to mention a tremendous business opportunity, because it's not merely an altruistic need. Absenteeism attributed to loneliness costs employers an estimated $154 billion annually, whereas connected workers show higher retention and performance, as I shared earlier. In fact, Dr. Sherry Turkle has been sounding the alarm about a generation that's lost the opportunity to practice spontaneous, two-way conversation unaided by technology. She shares a quote from a 16-year-old boy she interviewed who relies on texting for almost everything. He says wistfully, someday, but certainly not now, I'd like to learn how to have a conversation. Let that sink in. When he was 16, he didn't know. That boy and his friends are now 28 years old and in the workforce. Did he learn? Did they learn? And if not, what does that mean for teams at work? If we can't have conversations, can we have psychological safety or engagement or creativity? And if solving for creativity means solving for connection, can we solve for the connection crisis? We can. Can we do it? Yes, we can. Yes, okay. But if you're going to bring people together and ask them to be productive and even creative, you need to design experiences that promote connection on purpose. We have a name for this, and it's what I do, human-centered design. Human-centered design for the workplace challenges us to look at an employee's experience at work and design it like we would any great product. But before you go changing everything, you can run some low-stakes experiments first. At Adobe, we have Lab 82. It's our human-centric experimentation engine that acts on insights to create the future of how we work at Adobe. Importantly, it allows us to get real data to back up our claims that it's important to design for connection and to design the right interventions. So we asked ourselves, what would it look like to design an experience that could accelerate connection and creativity for teams? As I shared earlier, connection is in our biology. We evolved to connect, so we can look into evolutionary biology to discover the drivers of connection. And we have evolved all kinds of species-typical social behaviors that establish and deepen connection. The most basic 3 connection catalysts are food, conversation, and play. I don't have time to get into why these 3, we could, but if you're curious, you can read all about it in a blog post I wrote about how the TV show Severance took these exact 3 down in the first 2 episodes, okay? But I digress. At Adobe, we asked ourselves what would happen if we put these 3 elements together. And the Gather experience was born. It's a conversation game and a meal in one. Inspired by a coursed menu, groups engage with 4 progressive levels of question cards, guiding them from starters of lighthearted banter like, what's one book you recommend and why? Into deeper, more human or empathetic main course dialogue, like, what's a time when you changed your mind about something? Now, there are lots of conversation card games out there. I own many of them, and they're wonderful. What differentiates this one is 5 things. 1, we designed and vetted the questions with our own employees to ensure they would feel appropriate, safe, and fun to answer, whether in a group of new colleagues they just met or even their manager. Number 2, multiple options for each level of intimacy. Playfully invite people to choose the questions they feel most comfortable answering. They have complete agency the whole time. 3, we anchored the game in the oldest connection ritual of all time, sharing a meal. And 4, recognizing the importance of a host in establishing and maintaining meaningful connection, we also set them up for success with a playbook. Finally, we relentlessly measured impact and used data to guide our experience design. We've tested it now with over 300 employees, and I can tell you the impact has been tremendous, as you can see here in the data. One experiment participant said they got to know their direct report better in that 1 hour than in the prior 3 years. An overwhelming majority felt it helped them see colleagues in a new way, make new connections, and made it easier to talk to new people, developing the conversation skills that Dr. Turkel's research subject lacked. Hosts were extremely enthusiastic. I know a perfect NPS score seems unbelievable, but it is real. Check out some of the testimonials here. We're working on a rollout plan now to make this experience available to all in North America. Remember Sam? Sam's not actually hypothetical, she's very real. Sam signed up to be one of our experimenters for the Gather Game experience with her extended team, family, and I spoke to her recently. It's been about 6 months since they played the game. The business impact has shown up not only as more friendly hallway greetings, but also in directly improving operational efficiency during difficult product rollouts. Sam said it allowed them to be more willing to share creative ideas for solutions to problems where before they would just hit a brick wall. She described the impact of the game's design. The leveling of the questions on the cards helped it feel easy to go a little bit deeper each time. Psychological safety through playful structure, not forced vulnerability. Sam emphasized that the integration of food, conversation, and play wasn't merely supplemental, but it was essential. She said, food removed the barrier to entry, the game was something to do, and the conversation was where psychological safety was built. She rated the team's collaboration scores going from a 5 out of 10 to a 7 or 8 out of 10, and the creative mindset score from a 3 to a 6. This cross-functional team has even built a whole new collaborative tool that they are scaling to the rest of their organization. I'll leave you with a quote one of the participants shared right after the game. This morning, I saw one of the people who was in my group playing the game yesterday. We always say hi in the hall, but this morning the hi was different. It was like, I see you. I know a little more about you. She stopped. She acknowledged me completely. It wasn't just in passing. Let's review the key messages I shared here and talk about what we can all do to make the world of work a better place. 1, creativity is critical to the future of humanity, at work and in life. 2, connection is critical to unlock creativity, and both are in crisis. But here's what you can do. Number 1, purposefully design for connection in the workplace experience, and we're learning all about that. Number 2, leverage food, conversation, and play, evolution's most basic catalysts for human connection. Remember when I began, we found out who arrived here without connections? I think you've made some already, but I'm asking each of you to find one of those people and eat lunch with them today. You never know what creative possibilities that might unlock. One more thing, as you can tell, I'm obsessed with this topic and looking for more stories that I can learn from and write about. Please tell me yours. Here's how we can get in touch. Thank you so much to all of my connections in work and life.